and welcome back to Community Hotline. I'm Monica Weitzel. We're here at MetroEast Community Media in Gresham, Oregon. And now we're going to talk with a friend of mine, Patty J., who is here to represent Folktime, Portland Metro, Veterans Connection, and new projects she's working on. Thanks for coming, Patty.
Oh, thanks for, it's great to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. So you, in the past, have worked with Folktime, which is a program of Portland Metro.
It's actually the other way.
Okay,
Right.
Portland Metro Veterans Connection was a program of Folktime.
Correct.
Can you tell us just a little bit about that before I move on to some of the new and exciting things going on?
Yes, thank you. Well, Folktime has been around since 1986 as a peer-run mental health organization focusing on socialization. And Portland Metro Veterans Connection is a peer-run veterans connection. So basically vets helping vets.
Okay.
I'm a veteran myself, and so seeking out vets in our community, male and female, to really just support each other wherever we're at in our lives.
And you've just made this your life. I mean, besides your family, obviously, this has been your career.
It became a calling almost, really.
Yeah,
and it's funny because I almost forgot that I was a vet because it'd been since 1986, and I didn't have any friends of mine that were veterans, and so I even forgot to put it on my resume until a year ago.
Wow. Can you tell me just a little bit about your military experience?
I was Oregon Air National Guard at the Portland Air National Guard base by the airport in 1979 and 1986. I was a medic. So made sure the pilots were healthy to fly. So that was really fun. I was 19 when I joined, just to get my sister off my back because she felt I needed direction in my life.
And did it give you direction in your life?
For a while, yes. Yeah, it was. I'm glad I did it. My dad was a World War II Marine, so I was always curious about the military life, and so the Guard was a good choice for me.
Yeah. So what was the impetus to start working with veterans and helping them deal with issues that they have? And
well, just really came kind of organically because I felt, as a veteran who even didn't acknowledge herself as a vet, I knew there must have been other vets out there, and especially because Oregon doesn't have a full-time active duty base, except for Coast Guard. A lot of guards and reservists that were kind of just spread out throughout the state of Oregon and throughout the country without really having a community like a base to be able to come together. And so I felt like we really needed I love connecting people, and with peers, we know something about what the other person has been through. We speak the same language, the military language.
And people so that have been in the military really have that, don't they? I mean, that's a very strong connection.
Huge, and there's a code, a certain code. There's integrity and honor and follow through and being there for the other person, having their back. And I really felt, and women veterans especially, we're very fragmented, and a lot of times we don't even identify as veterans. And so I felt very strongly that women needed to be supporting each other and letting them know that we're not here to fix them or to give them a recipe to get on with their lives, but to help each other wherever we're at.
So what are some of the ways that you've been able to help, and that the organizations have also been able to help?
Yeah, it's really exciting because we just have our own meetup.com. We have Portland Metro Veterans Connection, and we just really post different activities and projects that we're working on, and we have now over 100 members.
Oh, wow.
So we've pretty much doubled in the last year. So we do things like we went out to Skydive Oregon last weekend for Party for a Purpose. They're fundraising for veterans. I didn't skydive. That's next year.
Really?
But supported 3 veterans, 2 women and a guy that did raise money. We're going to go out to Sycamore Lane to the Therapeutic Writing Center that's coming up. They do free writing for veterans. We have a women's brunch that we get together once a month of just women vets and support each other. We're going to go see a friend's new horse that they adopted.
Nice. Oh,
so we cut wood for a vet who's off grid for his family.
So it could be pretty much anything, either something that somebody needs or just wants to do or wants to be involved in, and just be there for each other.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very simple that way.
I like that.
Simple but powerful.
What do you find are one of the biggest needs that women have as a military veteran? I mean, that would be different than anybody else.
Right. Women, because we've just now, well, actually the struggles with women in the military has gone way back to the 50s, if not before. But in current wars, since we've been in combat in these last 2 conflicts and wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, we've been in combat. So There's a lot of been different stressors. Obviously, military sexual trauma has happened, and there's actually a term for it. It's nothing new. We're just paying more attention to it.
Right.
So the women that experience that, and just the feeling like they don't really stand up the same way as the guys and offer as much, is really taking a lot of time for their confidence and taking something away from their own self-esteem. So knowing that there's other women out in the community that can speak that same language, I think has done a lot for them feeling like they have a voice.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work to be done in the military and the culture as far as women. But I feel very excited to meet the women that I'm working with now.
I'm sure. Well, being a military veteran for a woman should be something that would elevate your self-confidence. It really should, but evidently it doesn't always happen.
No,
And
it
that's sad.
really is really
Yeah,
sad.
it is
So
sad.
we're trying to make some changes legislatively.
So do you do advocacy work?
Yeah, there's a new bill that's coming forth, House Bill 3479, which it opens up a position within the ODVA, Oregon Department of Veteran Affairs, for a women veteran coordinator position.
Well, they
So
should
that
have had
is
one a long time ago,
It's being
probably.
voted on by the Ways and Means tomorrow. So
Oh,
we should
really?
know.
Oh, good.
Yes,
We'll
very
have to
exciting.
follow up and find out what happened on that. I hope that goes through.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned the Women's Veterans Brunch, and there's also, you told me something earlier about the Traveling Vietnam Memorial Wall. What are you doing with that?
Right, so that's coming through to Milwaukee, which is the only Pacific Northwest stop. So it comes from
Really?
California, Milwaukee, and then on to Missouri. So it comes, and it's going to be at Milwaukee High School, July 23rd to 26th. So I'm
My
helping.
alma mater.
It's going to be quite exciting.
I bet.
It's 3/5 size of the one in Washington, D.C. It comes in on a long bed truck, and it's going to be quite an amazing, and it'll be manned 24/7, so people can go and visit it at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Really?
Or any time.
That'll be very powerful, I'm sure.
It's going to be and the American Legion and Post 180 in Milwaukee and the state of Milwaukee are partnering up together to put this on.
Oh, good. I have some friends that are part of that, so I'll have to check that out. Then there was also an art show that somehow went with that. Tell me about that.
Right. So I really feel, and working in my work with art and music in my Folktime program, that a lot of times art is a great source of therapy or healing, and
way to express
and
yourself.
especially with veterans, I've seen some incredible artists. And so through the Wall event, I figured, let's put on a show, an art show, and it's going to be at City Hall on July 25th from 9 to 4.
City Hall in Milwaukee?
In Milwaukee.
Okay.
Yes, and it's called Warrior's Heart. So really to show the world that behind the uniform and the badges and all the ceremony, we're really pretty much the same. We have the same hearts and the same feelings and passions and pain.
Are you an artist?
I'm a musician.
Well, that's art.
My brother's the artist, but I'm finding out that you really don't have to be an artist to have heart.
Well, no, I would agree with that.
Yes.
So after all these things that you've been involved in, I understand you're starting another project too.
I am.
Why don't you tell me about that?
It's very exciting. I mentioned that my father was a World War II Marine, and growing up with a Marine from the earlier wars who was angry, who drank a lot, who picked fights with my brothers.
That doesn't sound very easy.
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. But I started making some connections and seeing, knowing that there was other stories of other daughters who had gone through that same kind of parenting with their parent, that there must be some connection, and I wanted to hear what those stories. So I thought I would call it Daddy, Now I Understand. Because, my father's no longer here, but now I understand a little bit more because there wasn't the PTSD acronym back there in the earlier wars of World War II, Korea, and even into Vietnam. A lot of that, we were just thinking that he was somebody you wanted to stay far, far away from. And I had even moved away.
Did you associate it with his military?
No, not at all, because he never talked about it, which was very common from those, especially World War II. They didn't talk about it, and certainly up to Vietnam, there was just, he never even brought it up. I don't even know much about, his story about what he did other than, little bits of here and there. So in talking with other women, and now I did an article in the Clackamas Review about a month ago, women are contacting me through that article in our area saying, my grandfather or my father was in, let's say, the Bataan Death March. And this was what, I have a story to tell. Or, yes, my father was not an easy man to live with, or he was a great man, but just very quiet.
Yeah,
So all these different stories and ways our fathers and grandfathers handled that trauma and that horror of those wars, how they dealt with it, it makes a lot of sense to say, maybe this is why I am at a certain part of my life. This is why I married a certain man. Or this is how I feel about myself or how I felt about my father.
Wow, the self-knowledge is, I mean, it would be amazing to be able to kind of figure some of those things out and go, oh, of course.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. That must be comforting and kind of confusing at times, too.
It stirs a lot of things up.
Yeah.
You know, it's not saying that we forgive everything, perhaps, you know, from our fathers, but it does relieve some of that angst.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
knowing there's other people that, other women especially, that have gone through that same thing.
Right.
So what are you doing, this project then? Daddy, now I understand. What are you doing?
So, well, I'm just connecting with other women. I'm setting up some scheduling, some interviews. I am looking for a production company. I just need a film crew, somebody to help me professionally, at least more than just my smartphone.
Capture the interviews
Capture
on
the
video.
interviews and to really, turn this into a film. It's probably going to be a year-long project because I really want to do a good job.
Sure. A documentary style.
A documentary
Yeah.
style, right? And I would love to enter into the Portland, Oregon Women's Festival
Oh yeah.
that they have,
Yes,
the POW Fest.
Yes, yeah, we've been involved with that in the past, so yeah.
Yes, it's very exciting.
Nice. I'll have to, see if we can get some connections going here. That
Thank
sounds
you.
like it would be a very powerful film, and it would be hard to watch at times, but probably very, I don't know, reaffirming that you're not alone, and that there's other people going through that same thing. What do you personally hope to get out of that?
For myself, I think a lot of it is because in my life, I've tended to blame certain people or events or choices, and I want to be able to understand some of those choices I've made. So my next 55 years of my life, I just told my age, I can feel like I'm more in control. That
Right.
it isn't, just because of what happened when I was a little girl or how my father was. It's taken that all into account, but also to have some forgiveness
yeah.
for him, even though he's not with us anymore.
Right.
Is to say, Daddy, now I get it. I understand, and hopefully he's watching and he can say, good job.
I'm sure he will.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm going to close here, and you got me choked up, Patty. But you're doing a great job, and I hope that there are women who will see this, or others who will see this and contact you, and try to get some understanding of what they've been going through, and for others to understand that we're all affected by those things.
And
so
if that's all I do for the rest of my life, then
you've done a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks so
Monica.
much for watching Community Hotline tonight, and check out the information about Patty's the work that she's doing. If you want more information, she'll be happy to talk with you. I'm Monica Weitzel. We'll see you here next week.
documentary was more than I ever would have dreamed of doing.
This is a community media station.
It was phenomenal.
Ready, camera, one.
What is it about this place that makes so many different people come together?
Ready, camera, two.
Very professional, experienced people.
You can use these industry standard pieces of equipment.
Ready, camera, three. Take three.
You don't have to be rich to do this.
Open people's eyes to something they've never even thought of before.
Cool stuff happens. It becomes this community.
That's going to really change who's telling the stories and who's controlling the messaging.